In a ceremony which ended the disarmament process, Colombia's FARC rebels group has formally ended its existence as an armed group, putting an end to half a century of violent conflict. The former guerrillas will now work on forming a political party, according to local media in the country. Take a look at this report.
A momentous day in Colombia as President Juan Manuel Santos shared a stage with FARC leader Rodrigo Londoño to mark the end of the UN-monitored disarmament process and draw a line under 52 years of civil conflict.
Today, June 27, will be a very special day for the majority of Colombians, a day never to forget. A day when weapons became words.
Se cambiaron por las palabras.
FARC will continue to exist but will act as a political party and operate within the legal framework overseen by the state.
Goodbye weapons, goodbye war, welcome peace.
Some 7,132 weapons have been handed over to the UN and will be melted down to produce memorial artwork.
The issue of the reunification of Cyprus again in discussion this Wednesday in Switzerland. The discussions will be held under the auspices of the United Nations. Secretary General Antonio Guterres called on the participants to seize this new opportunity to reach an agreement.
The UN's Special Advisor on Cyprus has said talks on the island's long-running conflict are the best, but perhaps not the only chance of reaching an agreement. Britain, Greece and Turkey are sending their foreign ministers to Switzerland for talks on territory, property, governance and power sharing, all make or break issues according to aid.
My preference is to talk about this as the best chance, not to discuss about whether it's a last chance, but I think it's a best chance, it's a unique opportunity, and it would be extremely sad if it was wasted. And I think, frankly, that's recognized by all participants.
The Greek Cypriot and Turkish Cypriot leaders will join the three guarantor powers for discussions in the Crans-Montana Mountain Resort. That will continue for as long as is necessary, the UN envoy said.
Well, on our second lead story today, in this edition, South Sudanese armed opposition Sudan People's Liberation Movement, SPLM-IO, has rejected calls to join the country's national dialogue process launched by President Salva Kiir. A committee formed with the National Dialogue Steering Committee had contacted former First Vice President Dr. Riek Machar and other armed opposition groups for their participation. Early this month, now Machar had petitioned the United Nations Security Council to facilitate an end to his forced confinement in South Africa. This next report has details of that.
Very good. Nice to meet you. Thank you very much.
South Sudan's People's Liberation Movement, SPLM-IO, has rejected calls to join the country's national dialogue process launched by President Salva Kiir. The leader of the SPLM-IO served exiled in South Africa said in a letter dated June the 24th and sent to the recently formed National Dialogue Committee that national dialogue is not their focus, but rather a mediated peace process. The country was plunged into civil war just 2 years after independence in 2011, after President Salva Kiir fired his then deputy, Riek Machar. The East African Regional Bloc, at its extraordinary summit in Ethiopia's capital, Addis Ababa, this month, called on both parties to return to the 2015 peace agreement, whose implementation was abandoned following renewed violence. The agreement faltered after renewed conflicts in 2016 between the two parties that saw the former First Vice President Riek Machar flee the country. Kiir declared ceasefire and launched the National Dialogue Body last month to organize the National Peace Dialogue, expected to include the armed opposition in addressing the root causes of the conflict.
And then I recall that, that despite the announcement by the United Nations regarding the end of famine in South Sudan, the food and humanitarian crisis is continuing on the backdrop of a civil war. In total, close to 2 million South Sudanese have fled the conflicts. However, in the midst of chaos, activists are fighting to give hope to the people, starting with the younger ones.
Students from various schools in Yei, South Sudan, spend their free time discovering new talents and learning life skills through a girls-only club that aims to promote peace among youth. The Spring for Peace organization teaches students to learn and appreciate other communities and shun ethnicity as they engage in sports and games. They are also taught on how to face challenges caused by the ongoing war.
I feel very excited because I can manage to carry a friend on my back. That means I can manage to lift the difficulties of life, and peace, unity is amidst us. We get to know each other. I mean, people you've never known. You didn't even know that they exist. But when we came to gymnastics, we came as one from various schools. We got to know each other. We're now friends. You can interact with each other when you meet on the way in various places. That's what gymnastics is all about.
Spring for Peace also hosts a number of other clubs that stage plays and take part in various other fun activities. The club also seeks to discourage child marriage and other customs still practiced here that deprive girls of an education and undermines their development.
As they climb on each other, that shows the tolerance, because you feel the pain, but you're able to tolerate not until that person comes down. If that person does not have the spirit of tolerating, you should have just checked herself, and then the other person falls down if you have bad hearts on that person. But it's just because of their love, because of their tolerance. They also forgive each other, they reconcile. Like when somebody has stepped on you, you'll be able to forgive that person and say sorry so that you continue to coexist together.
Spring for Peace currently works with girls, but plans are in place to introduce a similar one for boys.